Iran has been developing its missile arsenal for decades. According to US intelligence, the country has the largest number of ballistic missiles in the Middle East. In the last few days, the Iranian regime has fired hundreds of them at Israel in retaliation, testing the Iron Dome defences in Tel Aviv and other cities. Iranian media has reported that advanced ballistic missiles have been used in its attacks. US and Israeli estimates put Iran's stockpile at around 2,000. That was before the current conflict. It includes medium-range missiles that can be fired from Iran and easily reach Israel and beyond, some reportedly capable of travelling 2,000 kilometres, and short or close-range missiles that could be used to strike US bases in the Gulf within a range of 800 kilometres. The British maritime security firm Ambrey says it has observed video footage of the impact of two hypersonic missiles in the vicinity of the port of Haifa. Iran says the weapons can evade missile defence systems with their speed and maneuverability. Let's bring in Frank Ledwidge, Senior Lecturer in Strategic Studies at Portsmouth University, a former UK military intelligence officer. How much has Israel's military campaign weakened Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities?
Good morning, Ben. It's difficult to judge the nuclear capability question, but concerning the missiles, there are indicators, and you just heard them before, in the sizes of the barrages that are affecting Israel at the moment. So at the start of the conflict, just only a few days ago now, of course, we saw over 100 ballistic missiles launched, plus drones and other decoys. Now we're looking at a couple of dozen, which reflects the attritional rate that the Israeli Air Force, or IDF, has taken. Not just the Air Force, by the way, but anyway, the IDF has taken on Iran's missile forces. So they're taking a lot of damage, but still, it's very clear that they still have a significant capability. Who knows what that is? The Israelis say they've retreated 50% of it. We don't know.
Last month, Iran unveiled the Qasem ballistic missile, saying it was designed to evade air defense systems like the US-made Patriot system. How big a threat does it pose?
Yes, the Qasem Basir. There's also the Hajj Qasem system too. Both of these have been used, and the Sijil. All of these, I think, have been used according to the Iranians. And I suspect that some of the strikes we've seen on Tel Aviv and other targets over the last few days have been from those weapon systems. I don't think there are very many of them, but they are very capable, using a lot of North Korean and other foreign technologies, but also indigenously developed hypersonic and other technology, which allows the warheads to maneuver and avoid the arrow and THAAD systems.
And Frank, how are the advances in Iran's ballistic missile program related to its nuclear ambitions?
Well, then very closely. The primary objective, or primary strategic objective, insofar as the nuclear program exists, is to threaten Israel with destruction, to provide an existential threat and a deterrence out of it. And of course, for that, you needed a reliable delivery system. And these missile systems, ones we were just discussing, the Qasem Bashir and the Hajj Qasem and others, would provide a capability with a 2-ton payload or so, but slightly less than that, to, in theory, to lift a warhead into out of the atmosphere and back into Israel, with a reasonable chance of it evading air defenses. So the two programs are linked intimately. But of course, the ballistic missile program, now that Hezbollah has gone, provided the main strategic weapon of the Iranian state. And that's a sort of second line function. That's the conventional function. But the nuclear and ballistic missile programs are very closely related.
Israel's Prime Minister says the goal of this operation is eliminating the nuclear threat and eliminating the missile threat. Can those threats from Iran be eliminated from the type of military campaign we're seeing waged here?
Well, as the experts say, once you have the knowledge to develop a nuclear weapon and the data, that's very difficult to eliminate. So I'm willing to take their wisdom on that. As to the ballistic missile threat, that's simply, well, it's not simply, but it's a question largely of whether or not you can eliminate the delivery systems, which is to say the missiles themselves, their launchers, and the people who launch them, the command and control systems and all that. And I think that's something that the Israelis can hope to achieve over the next few days and weeks, to attrit, which means to grind that down, of course, to something that no longer provides or poses a significant threat to Israel.
The other thing that Benjamin Netanyahu has said, and we've heard this before, if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months. How would you assess Iran's program?
I'm not privy to the intelligence that the Israelis have, or indeed that the CIA and the American intelligence system have. And they say that Iran is not close to developing a nuclear weapon system, doesn't really have the will to, or doesn't really have the intention to do so. It's just a long-term conclusion of the American intelligence apparatus. So it's very difficult to say. But taking the Israelis at their word, they say that once you're down that track, which the Iranians are, it is simply a matter of time before you take certain steps which allow you to develop that weapon. Once you've developed that weapon, you have that knowledge, you have all the data, you've got the experimental, you've got the capability, and that's irreversible. You can't go back on that. More than that, I can't say. I'm not an expert on nuclear science.
Thank you very much, though, for your insights and all that background. Frank Ledwidge there, appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ben.